Welcome to Meeting of the Minds, PhD&D on YouTube. This is this week's Meeting of the Minds video, last week's character knowledge versus player knowledge, the imbalance that can occur there. Responses were fantastic. Videos, comments, everything. I let it run a little longer because I'm actually still seeing comments and videos coming up with the discussion there, so fantastic job. I've enjoyed all of it. I'm looking forward to more. Posting this new video this week just by no means, ends that previous conversation. If you've still got input on that, definitely, post that. Definitely come out with videos. If you haven't seen the old videos, check them out. Check out all the responses to it. It's a great discussion, a great two discussions so far we've had going in this community, and that's what I really enjoy, and I think everyone else really enjoys as well. So keep it going. Great job. This week we're going to focus on characters. What would a character do in a certain circumstance? What happens as a GM? What do you do when somebody plays against their character? By that I mean, have you ever had the instance where, maybe to save their character's life, a player has done something that that specific character would not have done under those circumstances? We're talking blatant, outright against their character. You're even aware of it, and it's not your character. Now, in my games, I'm very aware of character motivations, character backgrounds, all that. I sit down with my players similar to what Andrew over at DawnForgeCast does, and I one-on-one with them. Only at their request. I never make anyone do that, but they've requested time. They say, can you sit down with me and my character? Can we discuss, I need to flesh out my background more, or maybe I feel like my character there's something missing. I'm not quite sure how to play him right. And so I'll give them feedback, give them advice. And so I'm very aware of the characters in my campaign, and only on a few instances I've noticed in a certain game, usually when it comes down to life or death, that they've gone against what that character would have done. And I'm only saying that. I'm not judging. I'm not trying to say I know how to play their character better. I'm only saying it because after the game, I've talked with them about it, and they've agreed. They've come forth and said, I shouldn't have done that. That character would not have taken those actions at all. I was just trying to save his life, keep him alive, but he would have done the opposite. So I'm not judging. I'm not trying to say I know how to play their characters better, and I never, in-game, bring it up. That breaks the immersion. That takes out a lot out of a game. A GM shouldn't do that, in my opinion. So I've discussed it afterwards, said, why'd you maybe just bring up why'd you do this versus this? And they said, yeah, I thought about that too. I really should have gone the other way, but, in the moment they wanted to keep their character alive. It's understandable. So as a GM, what do you do in those circumstances? Do you do what I do? Do you talk to them after a game? Do you forget it completely? Does it even bother you if they're going against it? Or are you the type of GM maybe who lets them play 100%, it's all them, it's all theirs, you don't even get involved with their characters in some manner? Now, with mine, we got to a point where enough people were asking about it in the campaign and requesting a little help fleshing out their characters that, and let me stop right there, the philosophy that my gaming group holds and that I hold as a GM, and it works together very well, is that every game session needs to be better than the last, no matter what. And we're talking in terms of, role-playing. We need to role-play better than last time, no matter how it went. We need to always be improving in everything. And as a GM, that's my philosophy. Always improve. Always, how can I do this quicker? How can I reduce table transactions, get more into the role-playing? How can I create a better, play environment? How can we clean up the table? Stuff like that. So that's our philosophy there. So we're always looking to the next session. How can we make it better than the last? So I've had characters I have a Word document, actually, with character personality profile. And they go through and they answer questions about their character. If your character was in this situation, how would they respond? There's a list of adjectives in certain areas. Circle the one that's most fits your character. Then, like I said, it places them in situations. So they've kind of done a lot of this ahead of time, and they're prepared for those situations. They know their character would act in this manner in those situations. But, once again, this discussion is about what happens when they don't. What do you do as a GM? Do you respond at all? Does it bother you if does somebody persistently do it in your group to keep their character alive, to gain some advantage they go against their character? I'm trying to think of an example here, a very good one. Now, I'll give a kind of a good example. Ended up in a player dying. It's kind of illustrates the right way to do it versus the wrong way. But I had a group that defeated a lich way underneath a city, and they defeated it. They were not thinking at the time they were looking for an artifact. They found it, and once they defeated this lich, they left. Ignored the phylactery, ignored all that. They just straight up left. They hightailed it out of there, made it back. They reported to this council that they'd found it. They confirmed the suspicion that there was in fact a lich down there, and the council brought up, well, did you end it? Did you find the phylactery? Did you destroy it? And the party just kind of sat there and went, "Oh crap, no, we didn't." So they didn't really decide what they were going to do. They went back to their ship. They slept it off overnight. Were thinking about what to do the next day. The party had decided that they would move on. They would move on at this point. The lich had presented no threat in the past to this city, and they were going to move on, forget it. They had more important, pressing matters at hand to take care of. Now, there was a warlock in the party who disagreed completely with the group. He had to find out if the phylactery was there. He had to destroy it if it was. And so he said, that's all fine and dandy, but I need to go down there, and I need to find out if it's there. I need to destroy it. I've got to do this. We can't just skip over this. That was what his character would have done 100%. He would not move on without destroying that. The party basically told him, there were two others in the party who basically said, we're staying on the ship. We've got really pressing matters we need to handle here. We got to get these messages out. And so he looked to the barbarian in the group and said, will you go with me? Barbarian shook his head. He wanted nothing to do with that lich, with the magic down there. It drove him nuts. He was going to go back to the council to discuss another matter. So the player kind of looked at me, and he kind of knew immediately that that was something he had to do. He had to go down there. Him as a player, he didn't want to go down there. He knew his death awaited him if he went alone. However, he stuck with that character. He went down there. The lich had come partially back. Had gotten a little bit stronger than it was previously, but not at full health, obviously. So, needless to say, he walked into his doom. He knew it, but he played that character to the finish. It was unfortunate that he was with a group of people that disagreed with him and wouldn't help him. Couldn't with their characters and their matters, but he went down there. Needless to say, one-on-one, he didn't fare so well. So that's an example of somebody playing how they should. That player, once again, knew he'd die if he went down there, but he had to do it for that character. The character just had to find out. So, again, that's kind of a longer example, longer than I wanted it to be, but he did the right thing there, in my opinion. He played that character how he wanted him played, but also how he knew he'd set him up to play. He could not move on until he knew that threat was out of that town, or out of beneath that town. So, people a lot of times, he could have just easily said, well, everybody else wants to, I'll just jump on board, jump on board with everyone else, no one will notice, and I'll be fine. But he played the character out. It was fantastic. Very memorable, a lot of jokes about it, but, he played it out. So what happens in your campaign? What happens in your games? Do you have fantastic examples of players who play out their characters like that? Or do you have people who often skip over, they try to hold on to that character, keep them alive, but play against what that character would do? Do you have these issues? Do you not? Do you have stories based on them? How do you handle it? And so forth. So that is the meeting of the minds this week. What do you do when a player specifically plays against their character? Thanks for watching, and I hope to see some great discussion on the issue.